Okay, business leaders, are you here to play or are you playing to win? If you're in it to win, meet your next MVP, NetSuite by Oracle. NetSuite is your full business management system in one convenient suite. With NetSuite, you're running your accounting, your finance, your HR, your e-commerce, and more, all from your online dashboard. Upgrade your playbook and make the switch to NetSuite, the #1 cloud ERP.
Get the CFO's Guide to AI and Machine Learning at netsuite.com/tech. netsuite.com/tech.
It's Saturday the 8th of March, I'm Jamie East, and this was a week that saw an Oval Office rally to chaos, the UK and France take the lead in supporting Ukraine, Donald Trump flip-flops on tariffs, and big winners at the Brits and the Oscars.
Grab a cup of something hot, put up your feet, and get up to speed on the 7 biggest stories of the week. This is the Standout 7 from the Smart 7.
It's news,
but not the news.
Last Friday evening saw an extraordinary explosion of the traditional world order live on TV as Donald Trump and J.D. Vance ganged up on Ukrainian President Zelensky in the Oval Office.
You're gambling with World War III, and what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country.
The moment, which seemed to go on forever, was sparked by Vance, who insisted that Zelensky wasn't sufficiently grateful for American aid, and it spiralled out of control quickly. Zelensky left without any lunch and without signing the much-discussed rare earth mineral deal. He did, however, stop by Fox News to make his case to the American public.
I respect the president and I respect American people, and I think that we have to be very open and very honest, and I'm not sure that we did something bad.
The fiasco sparked an immediate reaction from world leaders who tweeted and messaged their support for Ukraine. Zelensky headed to the UK, where Prime Minister Keir Starmer had convened a summit of leaders to pull together a new alliance to support Ukraine, and he committed new funding to buy air defence missiles, and also announced that the UK and France would lead a coalition of willing to help Ukraine.
The UK is prepared to back this with boots on the ground and planes in the air. Together with others, Europe must do the heavy lifting.
Zelensky also got whisked by helicopter to Sandringham, where he met King Charles, something that probably only irritated Donald Trump even more. And sure enough, Trump's mood towards Zelensky didn't appear to have improved on Monday as the US suspended all military aid to Ukraine. It came after a news article in which Zelensky said the end of the war was very, very far away. That really didn't please the US president, who was demanding an on-screen apology from Zelensky before he'd consider any deal on the rare earths or resumption of American assistance. Keir Starmer's put the UK front and centre of European plans to continue supporting Ukraine, even if it means sending British troops in as part of a peacekeeping force. He addressed the Commons on Monday.
So a strong peace, a just peace, a lasting peace, that has now to be our goal. It is vital, it is in our interests, and its pursuit, Britain will lead from the front.
Tuesday saw Zelensky make a new effort to set back from the brink with Trump. He released a statement on X which stated he was willing to work constructively under President Trump's strong leadership and reiterated Ukraine's commitment to peace. It was a dramatic turnaround, and it came swiftly after the US paused all military aid to Ukraine. European leaders have continued to step up, however, with EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen announcing a major new plan to rearm Europe.
We are in an era of rearmament, both to respond to the short-term urgency to act and to support Ukraine, but also to address the long-term need to take on more responsibility for our own European security.
French President Macron addressed his nation on Wednesday evening, calling on Europe to be ready for a world where the US might not be at our side. He also said France and Britain have been busy working behind the scenes to develop a peace plan. At Prime Minister's Question Time, Keir Starmer was on the same page in terms of next steps.
We need to do everything we can to ensure that the US, Europe and Ukraine are working together on lasting peace. And I'm doing everything I can to play my part in that.
As the week went on, Trump appeared to dramatically soften his tone towards Zelensky, and it's expected there will be a follow-up meeting with US officials next week. Thursday saw EU leaders agree to a massive new defence plan worth up to €800 billion, and after his Oval Office appearance, Zelensky was making certain he remembered his P's and Q's.
During all this period and last week, you stay with us, and of course from all the Ukrainians, from all our nations, big appreciation. We are very thankful that we are not alone, and this are not just words, we feel it.
UK Defence Secretary John Healey was in Washington on Thursday meeting with US Secretary of Defence and former Fox News host Pete Hegseth, who described the notion that the US has taken a pro-Russia stance as garbage. Healey was keen to point out Europe has risen to Donald Trump's challenge.
You challenged us to step up on Ukraine, on defence spending, on European security, and I say to you that we are, and we will further.
The strong line taken by Starmer and Macron wasn't making Russia particularly happy. Macron again referred to Putin as an imperialist on Thursday, and his offer to provide a so-called nuclear umbrella to its European allies has really annoyed the Russian president. Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov was busy complaining.
Of course, this is a threat to Russia. If they consider us a threat, if they say it is necessary to use, or prepare to use nuclear weapons against Russia, this is, of course, a threat.
Apart from the frantic diplomacy on Ukraine, the government was busy with a new white paper published as part of its commitment to tackle the housing crisis and reform home ownership. The UK currently operates a system called leasehold, which effectively means if you buy a flat, the building is most likely owned by a third party who retain control over how the building's run. Housing Minister Matthew Pennycook told the BBC he believes the current system's inherently unfair and that a legal reinvigoration of what's known as common hold will give people better control over their homes. Harry Scofflin's a founder of the campaign group Free Leaseholders, and he says his members have heard similar promises before.
When I was 1 year old, they promised all new flats common hold. Michael Gove promised it, Thatcher promised it. We've got to actually look at the delivery, and we're getting a draft bill at the end of the year and a common hold white paper. Why are we reopening the debate when Labour supported reforms from the Law Commission half a decade ago?
Tuesday saw the government publish the latest version of the Employment Rights Bill before it goes to a vote in the Commons next week. And for once, trade unions were delighted by changes made by the Business Secretary Jonathan Reynolds, who has added additional protections for workers to the new version of the bill. That includes so-called day one rights for 9 million people against unfair dismissals, along with the right to a new contract for zero-hour workers and additional paternity leave and sick pay rights. The Federation of Small Businesses says the government has missed an opportunity to help businesses, but the Deputy PM Angela Rayner said the new rights and things like the right to switch off are essential for workers' welfare.
Many of employers have worked with us on these changes because they recognise that the vast majority of employers out there already do what we're proposing and they want to engage with us.
Protesting farmers were back on the streets of London, this time with a topical theme. They chose Pancake Tuesday to make the point there'd be no pancakes without farmers as they continue to apply pressure to the government over the proposal to introduce a reduced level of inheritance tax on farms valued at over £1 million. The change is due to come in April, and the farmers had a new recruit, Tory leader Kemi Badenoch, who said the impact of the new policy is absolutely heartbreaking, despite it not yet having started. She was also busy drawing parallels between the current international crisis and the farmers.
This is one of the most important campaigns that we are fighting. The family farms tax is an immoral tax, and at a time when we are looking at national security, food security is a critical part of national security. Chancellor
Rachel Reeves is due to make her spring statement on March the 26th, but it became clear on Wednesday there's not going to be much good news in it. The Office of Budgetary Responsibility warned the risks in the global economy, including Trump's tariff wars, mean that the £10 billion or so the Chancellor had to play with is effectively gone. Instead, she's earmarking billions of pounds in welfare cuts, which may lead to a fundamental reform of the whole welfare system. Justice Secretary Shabana Mahmood said it's the right time to review welfare.
It is right that a Labour government strains every sinew to make sure that the support is available to prevent people from leaving the labour market, or if they have left the labour market, to help them get back into it.
Ruth Curtis, the chief exec of the Resolution Foundation, would rather see the government consider tax rises for the wealthy.
But I do think there's an argument not to cut welfare spending but to look at taxes instead. We have child poverty rates forecast to rise, and we have inflation rising at about 3% and benefits already only going up this April by about 1.7%. So this is a group that are already under strain.
Donald Trump's new tariffs on China, Canada and Mexico kicked in on Tuesday and got an almost universally negative reaction. The markets tumbled as fears over a global trade war escalated, and China and Canada quickly reciprocated with tariffs of their own, while Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum has also promised a response. Trump's Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick had been hinting a compromise of some kind is possible, but Canadian PM Justin Trudeau was a lot more direct.
Now, it's not in my habit to agree with the Wall Street Journal, but Donald, they point out that even though you're a very smart guy, this is a very dumb thing to do. We two friends fighting is exactly what our opponents around the world want.
Trump, of course, responded during his address to Congress on Tuesday evening. He boasted that America is back and pledged to continue with his programme, which he said will usher in the golden age of America. And he didn't appear to be in a mood to back down on tariffs this time either.
Tariffs are about making America rich again and making America great again, and it's happening, and it will happen rather quickly. There'll be a little disturbance, but we're okay with that.
Meanwhile, Elon Musk continued his erratic chainsaw approach to cutting the US government with a new announcement on Wednesday that 80,000 jobs are to go at the Department of Veteran Affairs. That's a potentially politically explosive announcement, and it came as two of Donald's other cost-cutting plans have been rejected by the courts. The Supreme Court voted against Trump's demands to freeze $2 billion in US aid, while an independent board ordered 6,000 workers reinstated at the Department of Agriculture. Trump showed the first sign of hesitancy on his new tariffs as he gave car manufacturers an extra month in which they're expected to move all car production to the US. And as the economy stuttered and markets wobbled, the Commerce Secretary Lutnick was doing verbal backflips on Fox News to avoid upsetting his boss.
There's going to be a short period of time where there'll be some higher prices on certain products. It's not inflation, that's nonsense. It's certain products for a short period of time.
The one thing we're learning in the Donald Trump era is that everything is subject to change according to the presidential mood. Thursday saw him again pour some of the newly implemented tariffs on Mexico and Canada, specifically those covered by the USMCA, an existing trade agreement. He spoke from the Oval Office and grumbled about the reaction to his tariffs from what he called globalist countries.
This is something that we have to do. There'll always be a little short-term interruption. I don't think it's going to be big, but the countries and companies that have been ripping us aren't particularly happy with what I'm doing.
Last week marked the end of the first phase of the ceasefire in Gaza, with Phase 2 expected to see Israeli troops withdraw and a further phased release of hostages by Hamas. However, Israel moved swiftly to block any aid flowing into Gaza unless Hamas accepted a new plan put forward by Donald Trump's special envoy, Steve Witkoff. The plan calls for an extension of Phase 1 and a continued release of hostages until after Ramadan and Passover in mid-April. There would also be no further Israeli troop withdrawals. Hamas's refusal to entertain the proposal sparked Israeli PM Netanyahu into a blockade of aid.
In light of Hamas's rejection of the Witkoff outline, we have decided to prevent any entry of goods and supplies into Gaza. If Hamas continues to entrench itself in its position and does not release our hostages, there will be further consequences.
Monday saw widespread international condemnation of the move, which included UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres and UK PM Keir Starmer.
The decision to block aid into Gaza is completely wrong. And should not be supported in this House. On the contrary, what we need is more aid going into Gaza, desperately needed aid, at speed and at volume.
The aid blockade appeared to be just Phase 1 of what the Israeli government's calling a hell plan for Gaza that could see electricity and water supplies cut off. It may also see the civilian population shifted from northern Gaza as Israel prepares for the resumption of hostilities. It appears America has also engaged talks with Hamas in a bid to push for the release of all hostages, with Donald Trump making threats on Truth Social to back up his point. But with no sign of a breakthrough on ceasefire talks, Salim Owais of UNICEF says the impact of the aid freeze could be catastrophic.
We're talking about going back to days that were so dark for people that they couldn't really find the basics. We're talking about just a drop of water, a bit of bread on their tables.
Still to come on the Standout 7, it's all about the glamour at the Brits and the Oscars. Right after this.
Applebee's has a brand new Big Easy menu. It features all your Bourbon Street favorites in one new menu. Plus a new Bourbon Street chicken and andouille sausage penne starting at just $11.99. with Cajun flavors sure to get your taste buds dancing. Applebee's is bringing Bourbon Street to Yolo Street. Make sure to try the Big Easy menu now, only at Applebee's. Only at Applebee's.
Limited time price, participation, and selection may vary.
Welcome back.
There was another car ramming incident in Germany on Monday, the third in 4 months. This time the attack took place in the city of Mannheim and saw at least 2 people killed during a carnival to celebrate the start of Lent. German police arrested the driver of the car, and sources say there's no political element to the attack and that the man is believed to have had mental health issues. Incoming German Chancellor Friedrich Merz called on security forces to do everything they can to prevent such acts. Raphael Bossong is from the German Institute for International and Security Affairs, and he said it's important to understand it's not necessarily a coordinated campaign.
These incidents are different. I mean, some of them have a similar pattern, others are conducted by sort of lone actors. So we really have to look at these individual actors rather than just seeing them as one big pattern.
Last weekend was a big one for awards, with the Brits on Saturday and the Oscars on Sunday. Sabrina Carpenter pretty much stole the show at the Brits in London with an over-the-top routine involving dancers dressed as royal guardsmen. And that wasn't the only dramatic moment to get Ofcom phone lines hopping. Danny Dyer was busy swearing, Charlie XCX wore a see-through top, and one of Jade's dancers mooned the camera. In other words, a traditional Brit Awards. Host Jack Whitehall was back, and there were prizes for Chapel Roan, Fontaine's DC, Stormzy, and Sabrina picked up a Global Success Award. But the night really belonged to Charlie XCX, who picked up 5 trophies in total, including Best Album.
I've always felt like an outsider, kind of particularly in the British music industry, and so it feels really nice to be recognised.
Sunday night saw the 97th Academy Awards take place at the Dolby Theatre in LA. Conan O'Brien was this year's host, replacing 4-time host Jimmy Kimmel, and he even did a song and dance number. A lot of the big categories looked predictable, with Kieran Culkin, Zoe Saldana and Demi Moore all coming in as favourites, but that's not quite how it turned out. Low-budget comedy Anora, which sees a sex worker stand up to a Russian oligarch, won 5 awards, including Best Actress for Mikey Madison, along with Best Picture, Director, Editing and Original Screenplay, making creator Sean Baker only the second person to win 4 Oscars in one night. The other person? Walt Disney. Not bad company. Culkin and Saldana both won their categories, and Adrian Brody won Best Actor for The Brutalist, his second award 22 years after the first for The Pianist.
I pray for a healthier and a happier and a more inclusive world. And I believe if the past can teach us anything, it's a reminder to not let hate go unchecked.
You've been listening to The Smart 7. We'll be back tomorrow at 7 a.m. Hit that follow button and have a great day. Give us 7 minutes and we'll give you the world.
And now, a next-level moment from AT&T Business. Say you've sent out a gigantic shipment of pillows, and they need to be there in time for International Sleep Day. You've got AT&T 5G, so you're fully confident. But the vendor isn't responding, and International Sleep Day is tomorrow. Luckily, AT&T 5G lets you deal with any issues with ease, so the pillows will get delivered and everyone can sleep soundly, especially you. AT&T 5G requires a compatible plan and device. Coverage not available everywhere. Learn more at att.com/5G network.